Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Happy Monday. I win.
It's the best day of the week. I win.
Brandy. Brandy, we missed you. We missed you so much. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a real vacation. It was great to take an actual break and like unplug.
Just watching our intro video. You know, you guys have different backgrounds every single week, it seems. But you can expect my trusty old photos in the background with my couch.
Yep.
You're the consistency.
I was just going to say he's the consistent one out of all of us. Me and Brandy are like, I don't know what we're doing next week. We'll find out.
Y'all are young and wild and free.
Yeah. Although after my most recent birthday, I'm not feeling so young anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say happy birthday. We definitely missed you, but knew you were getting pampered and treated well. Give us some highlights of the trip, of the vacation, the real vacation where you're not like traveling for work or a conference.
Or a wedding. And yeah, Romania was the first stop. That was so much fun. One of my best friends, Rebecca, lives there, and it was great to see like the place through her eyes. And we did some like kitschy tourist stuff and went to Castle Bran, which is like the Dracula castle, which every Romanian person I met was like, that is not the castle you should be going to. There's like literally nothing there. And they were right. But it was kind of fun to see. It's like obviously designed for tourists. And then we went to Istanbul and met another friend of ours there. And Istanbul, like I would go back tomorrow for an indefinite amount of time. Like it's probably one of my favorite cities in the world. I like just had such a blast. The food was incredible. The history, the people are lovely. And that actually kind of segues into, you know, I spend a lot of time criticizing Airbnb on here. But we just had
Brandy rants.
Brandy, this is like a positive rant. We had an amazing yeah, I know. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we had an amazing loft. It was like, I want to live in this loft. Our host was lovely. And then we booked a lot of things through Airbnb experiences, which I have only maybe done a handful of those. And I'm still skeptical on like as a revenue stream, if that's really bringing in a lot for them. But for the people that we did the experiences with, it was like, they love it. And I think that from, you know, if you go on TripAdvisor or maybe something else, there might be more like commissions or it's a bit more corporate. And it felt like these, you know, guides that we were using, or we did like a sunset cruise on the river, and one of our guides one day, they felt like it was more, they had more control, I think, over the experience, and they do a lot of business on there, and it was easy to book. And so I have to give them credit. Like it was a very seamless experience. And as you know, I mean, we always talk about this when we complain as hosts. It's very guest centric and it's easy for the guests. And it was. I mean, everything was seamless. So I will have to say, like, props to Airbnb on that. It was a great experience.
Wow. Airbnb. Nice. Good job.
Jessica,
that's exciting though.
On the show soon?
I know. Now will you come talk to us now that I'm not constantly complaining?
It's too good. Well, that's cool. I've always liked experiences. I think experiences could do great if it got the attention maybe it deserves. I just feel like maybe as a side hustle, it's not the best thing to do as a host, but if you can build an experience business, that'd be kind of really cool to look at and explore. But
if it goes along with your house, right? If you have a big farmhouse and there's an experience of like farm to table chef, and you go out in the fields and
exactly,
collect your produce and whatever. But yeah, I mean the one-off competing with Vitor or whoever, it's a challenge. I think Airbnb, similar to the homes side, they get the unprofessionals, or they're targeting the unprofessionals. They might get a catch-all, but they're really going after the individual hosts or the individual tour operators versus the, you know, tour the Vatican City promo type of experiences.
Well,
Michael, speaking of Sorry, go ahead, Brandy. Go ahead.
No, it was just interesting, like comparing the landscape of the Airbnbs that we stayed at in Brasov in Romania and then in Istanbul. Like it is only like local individual hosts. They might have one or two properties, and that's where you get the real, I think, like essence of what Airbnb wants to, like what Brian's real vision is. Like we're living it's this woman's home, and I think she doesn't really live there all the time, but I mean, it was like I wanted to live in this house. There was a sauna in the bathroom, like it was incredible, and you just really don't, the professionalization from like an operation standpoint isn't there, but like from everything in the homes felt like it could have been professional, so it wasn't, I think, as sloppy as some of the operators in our space want to make individual hosts seem. Like it was very well done, and they're clearly making a good living doing it.
That's awesome. It's always good to like, because we, as a media show and kind of going into news and the trending topics and conversations, when you're not experiencing it as much, like I don't really book at short-term rentals unless it's like a big group thing like this weekend for me. But usually like it's a conference, I'm staying in a hotel, making it easy. So to hear the actual experience outside of the speculated, talking points.
And you can learn a lot. I mean, whether you're staying in a short-term rental or a hotel, you still learn the goods and the bads, what to do and also what absolutely to avoid. So it is important if you have the time, which is hard to have, and you have the cash flows, which this year is a little tighter for most of the industry, but it is good to get out and experience hospitality, how others are doing it, because it's a broad term. You know when you see it, and when you don't see it, but to actually define it is not an easy thing.
It reminds me back in the days of our Barcelona trip where we got to experience Michelin rated restaurants down to the local individually owned cafe, shop, whatever kind of pop-up it was. It was really cool. So Michael, but speaking of experiences, I want to kind of bring it up to what you guys are doing at Storied. We saw a little press release this morning. You guys are allowing the public or the general traveler to experience castles. So maybe give us a quick, highlight of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, really just trying to grow and add castle and manor houses across the UK and Ireland that you rent the place, it's all yours. So you can literally live like a king, a lord, a duke. And we got 3 houses now that have never been open to the public. So come check them out.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah,
GMH
and just to confirm on air, GMH retreat. He hasn't said anything.
That's what I was gonna say.
Whenever you want, we'll figure it out. We will make it work.
That's good.
We'll make it work. Yeah, these places are special, and they're not. Americans don't often know that you can actually stay in a 14th century moated castle that has ties to the War of the Roses, right?
Yeah.
And it's not cheap, but it's also per bedroom not that expensive. Our starting price portfolio wide is about £252 per bedroom. So
not bad.
It's not, if you can have enough bedrooms filled, it's a rather affordable experience.
100%. Yeah, it's always funny when my friends are always like, so what's your Monday show about? I'm like, oh, I have these co-hosts, blah, blah, blah. And this is what we do every Monday. And then they're like, wait, one guy has castles? I'm like, well, he doesn't have castles, but at the end of the day, it's like,
no, Michael has castles.
It's just super funny on how many people are like, I never even thought I could book a castle. I'm like, yeah, you can find Storied. And then they're like, oh, that's so cool. So it's always a good party conversation starter for me, because then I could be like, flex and show off my friends a little bit. So keep it up. Keep it up.
It is weird to explain to people that on a regular basis. You just ate your son's 4-year-old soccer games. Like, so what do you do? Castles.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's jump into it. We got a couple topics today. And I think we should start with this one first, because I think the other ones kind of more tie into each other. So I want to make a disclaimer from last week's episode. Michael and I got to take the show solo, or the dynamic duo that we once were before Brandy joined the show along with Jamie Lane. And by the way, Brandy, don't tell Jamie, but he'll probably listen to this later. Your guys' episode beat us by a couple hundred downloads. So
Jamie and I are
just a
Jamie
couple.
and I are going rogue.
Spin-off podcast. Here it comes. I can already feel it. But anyways, Michael and I, we talked about kind of how the Hopper home situation, due to layoffs, there's a lot of layoffs that happen in the industry, from I think it was Evolve to V-Trips to then Hopper, and I think one more, but can't quite remember off the top of my head. Long story short, we thought their homes division was completely shut down, and we were incorrect. We reported off the sources and other industry news that we see, but after that episode aired, we were corrected. And so I just want to say Hopper Homes isn't fully dead. The department is still alive, but there's very few employees left from the Hopper team running the homes division. So my personal opinion, I wonder how long they're going to continue with it instead of just killing it, because if you have 3 people running a whole division, it just makes no sense to me. But that's just my opinion. But just want to make that disclaimer before we go into, I am not a Hopper fan, by the way, if you guys can't tell. Sorry,
there's no diplomacy here.
I know they're not going to ever sponsor the show in the future anyways. If they did, I would decline it.
Yeah, look, for us, it's important to share the news as we get it. And sometimes people that report the news are incorrect. So we do want to come back and clear it up. And then sometimes we share our opinions and sometimes we don't. And Will has a very strong opinion on it. So
just this one topic. The rest I could be pretty neutral, no big deal.
It's all right. I guess if I get to rant about Airbnb, Will can rant about Hopper.
Yes, finally I got a Brandy pass. All right, that was my main one. Excuse me, that I wanted to get out of the way. So the other one that we kind of saw happen, I think last week, was the closure or the announcement of the end of Airbnb Plus. So I know in our private chat for all the listeners, we have a group chat. Brandy, Michael, and myself, and we go back and forth a lot every day, and it's super fun. It's actually kind of a highlight for me. But you two had different opinions, and I want to kind of hear, maybe let's open up the floor with Brandy since she's been gone for like 2 weeks.
No, Michael, you know what? I will let Michael take this. Go ahead.
All right,
I'll keep it short and sweet, and then we can debate from there. But the biggest challenge Airbnb has, broadly speaking, is standards and consistency. And you can have super host, but that just means you're very responsive. You're highly rated. You can have Lux, which means you're $5,000 plus a night. But plus, to me, was an important moniker because it showed the property was elevated. It did have approved standards, however they classified it. So, I mean, I get why you don't want to have Superhost and Plus and Lux and whatever else they're going to roll out in the future. But if your biggest knock externally is standards and consistency, why remove, to me, the one badge that did signify standards and consistency?
So I just think that the criteria that went into it is why there was like a 100-point checklist, which fine, but then they were also there were in-person inspections. I'm sure they didn't do that to all. There was, tens of thousands of listings, but that was like originally. And like, I think we see this with a lot of luxury OTA, like originally when Marriott did there was all these in-person inspections, and that is not scalable unless you only want like a very small selection of properties. And I agree that like having the Plus, because it wasn't just big homes, like there were Plus homes that could be $150 a night. It was just like a unique or interesting property. So hopefully there's a way that they can kind of, I don't know, recapture some of that. And I have seen, I was looking at a listing the other day, and it had, you could say like if there were any architectural like significant parts of the home. So it had like the architect that designed the house and that had been featured in a magazine. And so I think that they're trying to incorporate parts of that experience into just the normal listings. But, standards and consistency are difficult when you don't have any control over the supply.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it does me some favors. I've got a broad thesis on the Airbnb categories and consistency across the board. And I don't know if either of you tuned into my Zach Boozacruz show or not, but I believe in the unbundling of Airbnb categories and then branding the top 5 or 10%. And with them removing Plus, they've just removed their own personal branding or their own Airbnb branding and now open the door for others. So, we've got design hotels in the hotel world that brands specific design forward properties. We've got Storied Collection that brands castles and manor houses. There needs to be and will be brands that do additional segments within hospitality, within the Airbnb categories. Beach houses, surf houses, ski houses, wineries, golf, any of the categories that Airbnb has can be unbundled and then branded. And then, if you're actually looking for a quality, consistent, top-notch experience within an Airbnb category, there's actually going to be a brand for that in the future. So that's my thesis. So I guess ultimately it's a good thing that they're peeling off the Plus. It opens up the door further.
Yeah, I don't know whether I don't have a thesis around that specific kind of idea that you have, but my thinking was, okay, they're ending the Plus program right before the November update announcement and all this other stuff. So it's more of a PR thing. I think they're going to do something with the inventory, or whether it's categorization or if it's something different. But at the end of the day, we all know Brian Chesky and the whole Airbnb team. They always talk about they're a media PR brand. Like that's their bread and butter. That's how they get so many eyeballs on listings and the app and all this other stuff. So I think it's a little bit of a PR play. There's going to be something that's announced on the November update, but could be wrong.
And it really probably just came down to being too expensive and not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, that too.
I'm sure it was just a business decision for them. Nothing more, nothing less. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, they should lean into some aspects of consistency and standards. But not my business. So,
well, actually, I mean, something that I think if you're, if you rely on Airbnb, you've seen this recently, but they are becoming very strict with their kind of like suspensions and like review. If you have this can cause a problem if you are an operator that uses the multi-unit function, which we do. But if you have like below, I think it might even be like 2 non-5-star reviews in a certain amount of time. I don't know off the top of my head what that time is. They'll just suspend your listing. So it's, they're definitely cracking down on what they like, the standards that they want to see. And I think I understand that there's just so much bad press about, people walking into some place and it's a disaster, not what they saw in the photos. So I think, unfortunately, I'll probably have something to complain about in the near future as an operator, but I get it when they're trying to have a certain standard across the board.
Look, standards, like, I think it's really hard to articulate, I think sometimes, especially with the amount of conversations that we have on this podcast, but within other shows and the industry as a whole, right? With conferences coming up, like VRMA and many others, the consistency and standardization conversations always kind of top of mind. I think number one person, and including Romy into this group, but like Casiola, and then you have Moving Mountains, and then you got the Casa Goes who are franchising and building out this really big footprint of professional operators. And it's just I guess like we keep using the word standardization and consistency, but I don't know if we've fully defined that. Because like you can take it from one level, like hotels where you stay at a Marriott. Excuse me, I need a cough again. But you got like Marriott, who like exactly what type of linen you're getting, the type of amenities. So like for an example, like I'm looking at my Sojo sample pack, and like that is a consistent experience, right? Like if you are a host or an operator that has their brand on the amenities, there's a lot of things like that I think can really help and kind of define consistency. But I don't know, from Michael, you look like you're excited about this one as a brand. I wonder what you guys are talking about internally. Yeah. So
consistency and standardization just falls within a brand. And if you can go on Airbnb and get a $90 a night place that hasn't been cleaned in a month, or you could go get $10,000 a night private island, like there is no brand there, right? There is no consistency. Now, Airbnb is a heck of a brand from a traveler perspective, knowing that that's a place you can go and book stays. But in terms of knowing that it's got a coffee machine and it's got filters, I've been to a lot of short-term rentals that they've got a coffee machine, they've got coffee for you, but they don't have filters. So you just have to get creative on how to do little bits like that. But that's where brand comes in. And I think that's, we touched on, or you guys did in my absence one time, touched on brand in short-term rentals and how there's not one, and how Marriott's, building a portfolio. Hyatt just announced their program as well. So I do think there is absolutely going to be brands within the alternative accommodations, short-term rental accommodations side. And it doesn't, like, standards can be 5-star, they could be 4-star, they could be 3-star. It doesn't matter. It just needs to be consistent and branded.
I used to be of the opinion that in our industry, brand wasn't important. Like when we were first starting out, we put like almost no effort into it at all. And then I had this change of perspective where, it's not realistic to assume that a person who has no idea about, the short-term rental industry or whatever is going to be like, all of a sudden, I want to stay at a Romy property. But what is like, they will probably go to Airbnb or Vrbo or Booking, whatever. But when you get inside your listings and your website and your property and you have the branding there, that is where it becomes important because it's part of that consistent experience. And, travelers they can be a little bit more savvy than maybe we give them credit for. So if they see, oh, there's all this branding in this listing, maybe I'll Google that. And then that's how they maybe get to your direct site. And then you get that direct booking. Or at the very least, it gives them confidence that they're staying with a professional operator, that they might have a more consistent experience, especially if they've had a bad one in the past. But I also think for like the individual hosts that are really like the Airbnb hosts, they might not have a brand, but the consistency of having, their place be the same every time, have a high standard of like cleanliness, good photos, like they're really, everything is very clean from like a, digital perspective, then that can be their brand without actually having a brand. So, but yeah, if you're an actual operator, I think it is worth actually investing in making sure that, how travelers see you digitally and in person is seamless.
Well, Brandy, I think you guys have invested quite a bit into your direct booking strategy. So you've recently shared in our group chat that, direct bookings is becoming a more dominant type of revenue stream rather than OTA dependence. So would you attest to that, to be into like branding and the things you guys are doing on the back end within the property and all the other stuff?
And so when we go through like a major rebrand, I think one of the things that's been difficult just from our experience is, we did all the digital things, but then it's going through and on the physical level, it is honestly a nightmare. There's so many little pieces. Like I was walking through a building this morning and I was like, oh my God, these stickers are still here. So making notes to order, change these things. So that takes a little while. But we did a PMS migration last fall, and that just caused a drop in our direct bookings because it's a lot of turmoil digitally, right? And then we weren't ready to launch our new brand. So we had this gap where our direct bookings took a pretty big hit because we weren't ready to like launch those things at the same time. So then, for me personally and for our commercial team, we started at like a really low point in March for our direct bookings, and to see them, like the increase is wild. We, at our lowest point, we're probably at like 7%, after the dip. And now we're, 20 back to the 20-30 range, depending on the week. And that feels really, really good to see that like all the effort that we've put into our branding and all of the ads. So there are certainly,
what's the breakdown there, if you don't mind sharing, like of SEO versus paid ads versus remarketing guests?
Sure. So a big part of that is like SEO is definitely big. And that's the thing with our website. We're also doing another migration, our CMS. We're migrating because to give us like a little bit more control. So our definitely will be, putting more, our site will be more robust like going forward. So that's a big component. And then, yeah, all of the Google ads, like being really strategic. We were changing our agency. So I just went in and I was like, I'm just going to play. And I just went in and just kind of threw things at the wall, tried different strategies, and some of them really, really worked. It was really fun to see, especially because that's not my background. Social, it's not worth it's worth having like an evergreen brand presence, but conversions do not happen from social in the same rate that they occur from, other channels. So I think that's a mistake to put that same amount of effort into social ads. But definitely making sure, like also going through the customer journey on your website and, making sure you can do it from mobile because that's where most of your traffic is coming from. So I think, every week we're making these tweaks to the website and you're really seeing like that payoff. And it's definitely great to see like when our website is our number one source of revenue and to just see like this is just my pitch for diversification that like there's no one channel now that is like totally dominant. So like if Airbnb like shut off tomorrow, it would not cripple our business. And that feels really good to know that we have just a little bit of breathing room when it comes to that sort of thing.
Have you guys tested or played any with like influencer stays?
Yeah. So in the past, we have, and I am like really anti-influencer stays. I'm trying to change my perspective, but we've had some people who had like great quality scores on like Hype Auditor and things like that. And the content that they produced was mediocre at best. We have had a couple of exceptions where it's worked out really well, but you're trading a couple night stays, even if it's midweek, which is, hundreds of dollars. And we got really kind of subpar quality from it. I think you do kind of have to pay a little bit more for like some influencers with a real audience or like a really big audience. And so we're going to start playing with that again. But I have been very reluctant to do it. I think for TikTok, we're going to have to succumb to it because I only downloaded TikTok because I had to get the Romy account. So and promptly deleted it off my phone. So I will acquiesce that we will have to probably get some influencers on there. So, but yeah, and other people have a different perspective. Avantstay does an amazing job with their influencer stays. So, I mean, that's a lesson or, want to take a page out of their book. But for us, it's something that we have to kind of pay a little bit more attention to.
Especially being in Miami, I'd think that'd be a big draw.
Well, that's kind of the problem is people like, oh, can I come for Art Basel over the weekend? It's like, absolutely not. You can come for a Tuesday, Wednesday in August.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the problem is you having to balance that with like, how much is that really going to drive the needle in terms of revenue? Now, in terms of brand recognition and getting followers, like we're just having to prioritize. We have a finite amount of resources, capital, and, human capital. Like, what do we want to put that towards? And influencers have not been like in that top group, but that's probably going to change going forward.
Yeah. Being in that world, I will say, like there's B2B influencers, so you could take like any of the podcasters in our podcast network, and then you have the B2C where they're very travel, they're lifestyle focused, they're the influencer that you look at on Instagram and you go, wow, I want to have that experience. I want to be like them. I want to live like this or whatever that type of mindset is around it. And the thing that we're seeing is like the creator economy, the people that have influence and followers and all this other stuff. There's a super big differentiator between followers and then also between like actual loyalists and fans. And so like people that I think it's very hard to, because you can see YouTube, right? YouTube shows views, right? But you can see Instagram and it shows followers, but how many of them are real? How many of the views are real? There's a lot of stuff that goes into question with transparency within the kind of like influencer world, something I'm very obsessed with, especially with kind of our whole business is media. So it's really interesting to see like, I've had that same thought where oh, this person has a big following, like they're going to bring a lot of like good downloads or whatever. And it's actually complete opposite, where the people that actually had smaller followings, but they're loyalists or super fans, they've been with them through the thick and thin. They're way more aggressive than not. So anyways, that's just kind of my thought around that whole topic.
I do think that influencers are going to be the next wave of OTAs or travel agents. It's going to take time, but as the next generation spends most of their time on social media apps versus Google, like we all kind of rely on, if there's any sorts of updates from these social media companies on searches of certain locations and top influencers and whatever, I think that could be a big moment in time. And maybe Airbnb's biggest threat in the industry is Facebook or Meta rather, or TikTok.
Interesting thought, my friend. Well, to wrap up this episode, since that we've hit that 30-minute mark, like all of our listeners know, we have to couple closing notes and remarks, and this one is one of my favorites that we've gotten to do because unfortunately, Michael, you won't be there. But Brandy and I will be rocking around the Casiola Beach Party, and the lovely team over at Casiola actually said, this morning, texted me and goes, hey, we want to give a couple of the GMH listeners a ticket. So each one of us has a ticket to give away. If you are interested in signing up or going to the Casiola Beach Party, you can DM us. You can hit us up on our YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn, all the stuff, or just hit the link in the show notes and sign up for potentially winning a free ticket. So I want to say that thanks to the Casiola team, we're excited. I get to play a game before I get dunked by probably Brandy, who's probably going to be the one to dunk me. I get to play a fun game. So part of our sponsorship with Casiola's Beach Party with Hospitality FM is that right when everyone's entering the park and Discovery Cove, there's a game called Where's Will. I'm going to be looking like everybody else, where I'm having a Hawaiian shirt, the hulu, all the stuff, the shorts, the flip-flops, everything. And I'm going to be hiding in Discovery Cove. And the first person to find us, Hospitality FM, is going to donate to the dunk pitches. So you will have an opportunity to probably just have a couple free throws at me while I'm in the dunk tank, or a couple of our other favorite names and faces that are going to get dunked as well, like Steve Trover. We got a couple others, Maddie from Mount, and then you got Margot from Hostfully, and then of course our favorite, Mr. Ryan Bailey from TravelNet Solutions, who's been a great guest on the pod, but I might take the opportunity to dunk him with my couple free throws. So who knows? But yeah, I'm super excited, and that's one of our closing thoughts. Anything from you guys on your end?
No, I'm excited for VRMA. It's great to see. It feels like kind of like a class reunion. So definitely come find Will and I. We want to do a couple mini episodes. So we'll be kind of searching people out to get their thoughts on the conference. And I have quick plugs for panels that I'm on Monday at 9:45. It's Fix Your Listing with the host GPO. We're going to pick a listing and kind of dissect it and give some tips to everybody in the audience. And then the same time on Tuesday at 9:45, the Art of Fundraising. So if you're about to start fundraising or thinking about it, come join us. And that is sponsored by Guesty.
I'll be at that one for sure because, anyways, before I share too much. I also want to give a shout out. Today is the last day for our partnership in the sense of the happy hour giveaway. So Sojo has been super great to work with, and we're still working with them, but we are closing after today our happy hour giveaway, where you can win a free complimentary 100% on Sojo happy hour for your housekeeping team. So grab the link in the show notes. There's going to be some stuff on LinkedIn as well, but grab that link, submit for your sample kit, and make sure you're in that drawing, because we are going to announce it we're going to announce it next week when we have the amazing founder of Bob W, Nico, on the show, and we're going to dive into their business and how they're kind of exploring throughout Europe and growing their brand and being very tech forward. So it's going to be a fun conversation, but last day today in order to win a free happy hour. So make sure you grab that link in the show notes. And for the two of you, anything fun or exciting this week that you have planned?
just prepping for these conferences, and then I'm going up to New York for one day to go wedding dress shopping for my sister. So I'm just bouncing around the East Coast this week.
Classic. No, just grinding away. I'm a bit sad I can't make VRMA this year, but it is what it is. It will be a lot of fun. So send lots of pictures.
You'll be there in spirit, my friend, for sure. Well, awesome. This has been a great episode. It's so good to have the trio back. Brandy, it's so awesome to see you. We missed you. It's not the same. But I do enjoy some time with Michael. You know, so it brings back the nostalgic
time.
Yeah, the early days back when Michael and I were rocking solo for a while. It was a good run. But so good. And of course, like always, we will see everyone again next week. Thanks for all of our live viewers tuning in. And also, a little special shout out, but our 3rd anniversary birthday is happening this week. Can't wait to share a little announcement that we got with you guys. But that's enough teasers for one episode, I think. So as always, like and subscribe. Make sure you share. All of your friends should know about the show. And if they don't, we would love to find out who they are so we can make them listen. Just kidding. All right. We'll see you all again next week.